First is our local event. A West Dallas Fire Department assistant chief has been recommended for discipline after being the subject of dozens of allegations of bullying, harassment, and abusive behavior that was brushed aside by commanding staff for years. Assistant Chief Jay Schaffenberg was investigated in 2018 and in 2004 over the allegations. When investigated in 2018, Schaffenberg denied many of the allegations against him and described being viewed as the informal chief of staff, so people were just jealous. Chief Pooler said that he had a verbal conversation with Schaffenberg about his behavior, but that there was no formal discipline taken against him. Then, investigated in 2004, a workplace survey singled out Schaffenberg for cultivating a toxic work environment. Of the 95 people who participated in the survey, 30 described his behavior as particularly demanding and toxic, and nearly 60% of respondents reported experience bullying. The survey also noted that West Dallas Fire Department employees have long criticized the entire management structure, calling for more leadership training so higher-ups are held accountable for poor behavior and ensuring firefighters are safe during critical incidents. The West Dallas City Attorney, Cale Decker, said the West Dallas Police and Fire Commissions voted to seek charges against Schaffenberg on December 26, 2004. These charges are still being drafted and could include demotion, suspension, or termination.
An upcoming election for Wisconsin Supreme Court holds high stakes as it may shape the future on many controversial issues such as abortion, voting, and workers' rights. The two candidates, Brad Schimel and Susan Crawford, each represent opposing views, and depending on the results of this election, may shift the current 4-3 ratio of liberal majority into conservative control. The two candidates have been heavily campaigning and mostly focusing on issues such as labor, executive power, criminal justice, and abortion. Priorities for Susan Crawford are shown as, quote, committed as a judge to ensuring that the courtroom presents a level playing field and that the court is in a position to act as a check and balance on the other branches of government. While for Brad Schimel describes, quote, he will take back the Wisconsin Supreme Court and end the madness of rogue judges, putting their radical agenda above the law, end quote. This election may be related to the class specifically through ignorance. This whole semester so far, we have continuously went back to this term. Ignorance is defined as lack of knowledge or information. With any election, it is important for voters to stay educated on the issues at hand in order to make educated votes. MS Magazine shares with readers in any article why our votes in this election specifically matter. They write about past elections and the impacts on communities and how it affects the ideology of the community. On April 7th, it is important for individuals to be well informed on the futures of their environments by voting.
On January 29th, 2025, tragedy struck over the Potomac River when American Airlines Flight 5342 collided mid-air with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter near Washington, D.C. The devastating incident occurred at 8:47 p.m. as the plane approached Reagan National Airport, resulting in both aircrafts plummeting into the water below. The crash took the lives of 67 people aboard both aircrafts, including 64 passengers and crew on the plane and 3 soldiers in the helicopter. This event was captured on video by a webcam at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The collision had left a brief trail of fire upon impact. Recovery efforts in the Potomac River spanned several days, with all victims' remains eventually recovered and identified. The National Transportation Safety Board launched an investigation focusing on the flight paths and potential airspace violations. This tragic event marked the deadliest U.S. flying accident in over 2 decades and the first major commercial passenger flight accident in the country in nearly 16 years. While this widely covered incident has heightened fears of flying among Americans, it's important to consider the rarity of these events. This fear stems from availability bias, where we judge the likelihood of an occurrence based on how easily we can recall examples. The sharks kill few analogy also illustrates how people often overestimate rare, dramatic dangers while underestimating more common, less sensational risks. For perspective, the odds of dying in a car crash are approximately 1 in 101, while the odds of dying in a commercial plane crash are about 1 in 11 million. Yet many people drive daily without concern but hesitate to board a plane. This cognitive disassociance highlights the importance of rational risk assessment in our daily lives.
It's been over 3 decades since the Iron Curtain fell, yet Germans are still divided. Germany recently had its election, with the center-right Christian Democrats winning the most votes. However, the popularity of the far-right surged, especially in the East German areas. Shown now is the areas the far-right won. And this is a picture of Germany when it was divided. This is a worrying trend. The far-right is rising in German politics. This all comes back to economics. East Germany faced Soviet control, and it lags behind the West economically. Most of the German companies are based in the West, and overall, they are just less happy than their Western counterparts. When an economy trails behind, a common consequence of this can be people turning to the extremes, which is what's happening in East Germany.